All right, and now that we're recording, we can go ahead and get started. It is 3 o'clock on the nose. Welcome to our very first Miala Annual Conference virtual breakout session. I am your session moderator as well as facilitator / community college IG chair, Jen Firo. I'm from Jackson College. So I've got a couple of housekeeping items to share with everybody before we get started. We do ask that everybody keeps their microphone on mute until you need to ask a question. And then you can ask questions at any time during the chat. I will be monitoring the chat the entire time, and we'll just save those all for the end of the session. So if you are one of those people like me that just have to like get it in there while it's in your brain, just feel free to go ahead and do that. And then after the session, we would like you to please take a moment to provide feedback for our presenters by filling out the session evaluation form, and that is in your conference portal. It's on the very last tab up there. So our presentation today is the Community College Hot Topics Forum, Adapt, Adopt, Advocate, and our presenters are Sandy McCarthy, Francis Krempaski, Darlene Johnson-Bignotti, and Jennifer Adams. Right, so just a quick overview. This is going to be a series of 5-minute lightning talks. So each of our presenters is going to be taking 5 minutes to talk about their particular topic. So that'll take about 20-ish minutes. And then the rest of the time, we just want to open it up for questions and discussion. So just keep that in mind. We want this to be pretty interactive, if at all possible. You do not have to unmute yourself. You can feel free to participate via chat, all of that. We want a really nice, robust participation from everybody. All right, and with that, we will move to our first presenter.
Hello, and that's me. I think this might be the first conference I've ever attended where I washed the dishes between a session. So it's kind of interesting. It's not often that I say nice things about schools like Ashford University or Walden, but I have to give those schools props because those schools tapped into something a long time ago that it took a pandemic for the rest of us to realize. And that is students really like the option of not having to come to campus. An April 2020 survey of post-secondary students by educationdata.org revealed that despite technology issues and isolation issues, most students felt that their online learning experience was either just as effective or even more effective than their in-person experience. And 70% said that they would likely take another online course after their institution returned to being face-to-face instruction. Now, granted, that study was a year ago, so those students might be Zoom fatigued. And I imagine that some of our larger schools like Michigan State or Grand Valley, those students are chomping at the bit to get back on campus because they want a traditional college experience and all of the freedom and debauchery that comes with it. But for those of us who are at commuter colleges and serving non-traditional populations, we may never see the level of on-campus activity as we did in Life BC, and that's before COVID. And it's not just students who want the flexibility of online learning. At OCC, our current contract allows faculty, which also includes librarians, to work half of their load online and all of their overload online. So the need to be where our students are and our classes are is crucial. In anticipation of this new normal, we've expanded some of our services that we're already offering and had in place to support online learning and online learners. Like most of you, after we closed, we increased our chat hours and went from 7 librarians covering the global queue 2 hours a week each to each librarian covering 15 hours per week, mostly to serve OCC students. Assuming that we resume a face-to-face presence in the fall, which is kind of questionable at this point, of course, those hours will be reduced, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means that we won't be rushing like seagulls over a dropped Dorito when a student chimes in. But our students are not 9 to 5, and we can't be either. We've added covering the OCCQ until 9 o'clock p.m. most nights, and Sunday from 4 to 9. Right now, there are only 2 of us working extended hours, and the Sunday shift can be fairly steady, especially during mid-semester when those first paper drafts come due. And there are times when I've had to let a question go to a 24/7 librarian, and I wished I had backup or someone else working with me. But I've also found that students are pleasantly surprised to talk to an OCC librarian, and they're very grateful. Most of them thank me for actually working on a Sunday and being there to help them. We also do Zoom sessions to replicate the experience of having a one-on-one consultation at the reference desk, and also realizing that some students learn better and are more engaged when they can see what you're doing as opposed to just reading a description. It is by appointment with 24 hours notice, which not everybody complies with, but we've had students submit a request at 8:30 a.m. for a 9 o'clock session, and we've managed to accommodate them. They can request a librarian from a specific campus, and we'll cover for each other, of course, if no one from that campus is available. We did 20 sessions in fall 2020 and 33 sessions in winter 2021. Now, that's not an overwhelming number, but instructors are starting to promote it and students are starting to realize that it's there. It'll be interesting to see, now that we have the ability to open a Zoom session during chat, if those numbers continue to trend upward. I don't know how many of you attended the North American Virtual Reference Online Conference, but we were interested in the University of Toronto's drop-in Zoom model, and we kind of thought, okay, well, let's give this a try. We did do a trial run last semester, and we offered 10 sessions, which we listed through our Countdown to Finals LibGuide. The sessions were open for 90 minutes to 2 hours, and a student could join anytime just by clicking on a link. Unfortunately, it didn't really catch on. Maybe it was timing, maybe people were Zoom fatigued, perhaps we needed to promote it more aggressively. But at first, if you don't succeed, keep trying, and we're going to continue to promote and assess this option. Lastly, libraries still put a lot of weight on people stats and bodies in the library. We're not doing as much instruction sessions as we were before COVID, but I created a psych video for an instructor that has been viewed over 350 times. Now, hopefully that's not 3 people watching it 100 times, but I've done this same session face-to-face for this instructor, and I've maybe reached 50 students. And I think this instructor is sharing it with other people in his discipline as well. So I'm reaching even more classes than I did beforehand. We'll always have instructors who are reluctant to yield their precious classroom time to a librarian, but they may be willing to post a 15-minute tutorial on their course site. The takeaway from all of this is that we're all dealing with a lot of uncertainty, and it's probably not a good time to spring a lot of new things on our patrons or ourselves. But if you look at what you're doing from a different perspective and maybe just tweak it a little bit to make it work online, I think you'll see some opportunities to bring students and instructors back into the library, even if they're on the other side of the screen. Thank you.
Thank you, Darlene. All right, our next presenter is Jen Adams.
Hello there. Yes, I'm Jen Adams from Jackson College. We are the 2 Jens. And our library has been closed entirely since around St. Patrick's Day last year. So we've been 100% virtual since then. And I would say, as far as silver linings, one of our biggest silver linings has been gaining real recognition within our own college that has resulted from kind of a forced exposure to our online services. So having our own institution finally understand our value has led to some opportunities for us. And in the past, it's kind of, no matter how much we have preached about our digital resources, it just never quite sank in. So we were still sort of known as, the building with the books. And then when digital virtual services were all we had left, it's kind of like our institution took notice of this. And for the most part, we expanded on what we already did digitally, but most of the college didn't realize what we did still, and were amazed at the things that we're able to do. And the pandemic created this awareness. And many of the areas of our college struggled when trying to convert face-to-face positions to virtual, and really assumed that we would have a very hard time. And, there was a sense of, well, what will you guys do now? What will the library do without the building? And we said, we're going to do exactly what we've been doing, just more of it. And we pretty easily shifted everything seamlessly to digital, except reserves. And I know we're not the only library to say that. And really the most impactful expansion has been chat. Just like Darlene was saying, we're going to have a lot of overlap here, but we also added local chat and expanded our availability enormously. We all log in to chat when we start our shifts and try to keep on and log out at the end. And that's a big difference for us. And our entire college did not have a chat service when we started the pandemic. It was just us. We requested that our chat be embedded in our LMS shell so that students would see it as soon as they logged into Moodle. And so we were getting all of the college questions and fielding them. And that's kind of how our chat gained recognition in our college. And after that, our student services followed our lead and added their own chat. And then something really cool happened. Student services staff and our own librarians started to work in tandem to field and answer questions together. Great collaboration. And so needless to say, the expanded chat is a keeper for us. We also expanded on our other tools, and I guess I can just say that we can probably develop a commercial for SpringShare at this point. SpringShare has been a lifeline for us, and we had those tools available in the suite for a while, but we hadn't been able to use all of them. A little background, the vast majority of my librarian's time has been spent doing research for our corrections education students, and I know a lot of you know about this. Add to that the fact that we are grossly understaffed. And so there has been little time to explore all of those tools. However, our corrections education research was on pause for the first 6 months of the pandemic, which was kind of a little silver lining for us, even though we felt terrible for those students. It really did free up time for librarians to explore the rest of SpringShare's suite. And Jen Fierro was absolutely vital in this expansion. And so we expanded on our LibGuides. We finally delved into LibWizard a lot more and added tutorials. LibAnswers was explored. Now we have an FAQ that we didn't before. LibCal is used to schedule the virtual one-on-ones via Zoom. And we really did not use these before the pandemic. That's kind of why I call this a silver lining. And because of all of this, and because of the recognition and our value kind of being seen by everyone, we have had some new opportunities on campus or throughout our college, created some inroads for us. First of all, we have the possibility of converting an adjunct position, a face-to-face, to virtual. And I'm not sure if this is going to happen, but it would be unheard of pre-pandemic. We've also been asked to host professional development trainings for faculty. That's amazing, and that was not a thing before the pandemic. We've been invited to participate in initiatives like our diversity, equity, and belonging initiatives, collaborations with multicultural affairs. And I am on the assessment committee, and I'm currently helping to rewrite our general ed outcomes to include digital literacy. So there are a lot of things that have happened that are positive. And we gained some ground that we will need to definitely use to leverage for future challenges. So I will hand it over to Francis now.
That was 5 minutes on the dot. Wow. All right. Oops, I went too far. There you go.
Hi, my name is Fran Krimpaski, and I'm the Electronic Resources Management Librarian at Lansing Community College Library. And today I'm going to be talking about a little bit about our moving targets, our streaming video and ebook purchasing models during the pandemic and how we updated them. The pandemic brought, of course, an increased need for online learning content, and streaming video and ebooks, of course, were the most requested and most used during this time. It also brought with it new opportunities for us to have some vendor collaboration and also collaborations in terms of meeting with the faculty and students about what they needed and their input on just what streaming video collections they needed. So we actually are, I'm going to talk a little bit about Kanopy. We do have other streaming video services, but Kanopy was one that was being used quite extensively before the pandemic. The week before the pandemic hit and we went out of work in March, I had a folder on my desk talking to the vendor at Kanopy saying, please, why are we up 130% in usage? Our budget is doubling every 2 months. And we were on what's called the purchase deposit model, where if a student plays a video 4 times, it triggers a license for a year. So that's how we were maintaining our budget with Kanopy. And it just went it was out of the water. I was like, what are we gonna do? So of course, that's also when students were using online video the most. Kanopy opened up some videos for free, which was great, but that also increased our usage. So to make a long story short, we worked with the vendor and moved to, at the time, what was kind of new for community college libraries, a hybrid model where we would continue with the purchase deposit account, but also bring in mediated videos, which were kind of videos that were more popular or they fell out of our curriculum a little bit, but they were still academic in nature. And students would then have to request those using a form. But what this brought with it, though, was a lot of confusion. Not a lot, but faculty were not used to that. So we ended up interacting a lot more with faculty about the changes. I created a Kanopy library guide, which was very useful for this, and also listed all the titles that we had purchased. So in some ways, this kind of adversity became really good for us because people now were aware of our Kanopy streaming video service, and then others because they would go to the video library guides. And actually to this day, we have faculty from English, Spanish, communications, all requesting videos for purchase or through the PDA. So it helped us to kind of evolve our purchase for that. And then it also helped the library liaisons direct their faculty in their areas to all sorts of streaming videos because people were asking about them. So for example, in our tech careers, our welding instructor who had to suddenly go online, we were able to show them that we had American Welding Society videos they could use in their classes, and they were shocked. So it did bring us some recognition in that area. And our budget stabilized, which is the good point. And then in terms of ebooks, we had the same issues that everyone else faced in community colleges. We really could not get our course reserve material from print to online. We took advantage of RedShelf and VitalSource. And after they were free for a while, and when they were no longer free, user services, reference, tech services, everybody just banded together, all hands on deck to try to figure out how to deal with this. So we came up with other options, supplemental readings that we could get online, supplemental books that we would happily purchase. We directed people to OERs. We have a lot of ebook collections in the tech areas, like O'Reilly Safari. So we worked, our liaisons worked extensively with those folks to try to get them good material. And I think they did. And we worked on a project in TS with user services to link our online material directly in our course reserves. So that was a plus. So generally, just to let you know, I think the outcome of this was pretty positive and in transitioning to an online environment. We really were able to work with faculty more than we ever have before to help to build more connections. And now there's actually a lot more awareness of our online resources. Yay. We have people are asking about our science labs, our streaming videos, our ebooks. And it's now more likely that we will purchase online content when it's available. And then the bigger issue with textbooks, our administration is piloting a project with faculty to work with our online bookstore to try to get e-textbooks to see how that will work out. And now there is also an increased awareness of accessibility in all formats. So that's a good thing. Thank you.
So hi, everyone. I'm Sandy McCarthy at Washtenaw Community College, and I have the end here of our just our introduction of 5 minutes each of talking about different topics. And mine's just, we can, like we were saying all along, all of us can speak to all of these topics so far. So I'm talking about planning for fall semester and what we're doing for getting ready for fall. And at WCC, we have been, our library has been on pause in March of 2020. We were informed a few weeks ago that our library will remain as a closed space still for fall semester. So the earliest we are back is the winter semester. So we're still planning on that environment that we're still working remote. Which is fine. We have actually done very successfully what everyone is speaking about. We've had faculty stick with us. We've had our instructions continue. We are spending this time frame right now, this May, June, is the outreach time with faculty, which is an extremely important connection. And that was realized by our Vice President of Instruction, that our connection with the faculty is very strong. And so even though during the pandemic, everything continued. It wasn't like anybody kind of walked away, oh, you can't make it and you can't do those instructions or access anything. So that became a big awareness. So as we plan now for fall, we're still thinking in that mindset of being virtual and what more can we explore? So the one thing that is starting, it's actually starting right now in May, which is a low time, but even through the entire pandemic, you could not request any of our books, any of our materials. We were loaning out the hotspots and laptops for students. At least now also, they have been added to our online catalog. So we have a guide that will walk them through, they connect through the system, and then they request it. And then they're going to have not really a curbside pickup, but a time slot in the lobby of our building when they come in and doing it. So that will continue. But what's being added now is at least our books, our calculators, pretty much anything that you can borrow is actually going out. And we expect a low kind of requirement right now, request for all of that, but expect it to pick up for fall. We did flip out our budget for this past year that we bought no print. So we're buying ebooks only. That has still to be determined what we're going to do for fall. So we're talking about that still. How do we handle, do we go back to print? Do we do a mix? If many of you have been buying the ebooks, you will find that the cost for them are like 300% higher than what a print book would have cost. So you're getting less for your money, which makes no sense because the printing isn't there on the vendor's end. So these are still things we need to plan for fall, what's going on. We have been with outreach with faculty all along. We are still there with workshops for them, and we're always part of in-service. And so we are getting ready for that too as well. But a big piece right now for our planning is reaching out with faculty right now, even though some of them may not be there teaching, and you can hear my dog going off. So sorry, but Tank has to make a little say in his own world. But we're getting that momentum back up and reaching out with them. We have tutorials like everyone else is talking about. We still do virtual instruction. Many of our classes went virtual. So the classes still meet, they meet in a virtual environment. We have the onlines, we have tutorials in those, the virtuals, we were joining their classrooms. And what's going back for fall is more classes on campus, but they're still respecting social distancing, and the classes should have no more than like 12 students. So our request for instruction is still like, that will be an interesting discussion if it's like an English class that requires us, it meets on campus, then we have to go in, and we're not sure what's going to happen. We'll see what goes on there when we get to fall. But otherwise, we still plan only virtual. Our library is closed. Our lab is not going to be available. So it's that environment only. So Jen's telling me I have 1 minute left. So our fall for planning, our mindset is still we are remote. We actually also, like Darlene at OCC, there is a letter of agreement also for the librarians and counselors, just like the in-class instructors. Working remote is part of it. We could be called in to rotate a shift. It doesn't look like it. We were told that most likely that won't apply for us, but the counselors and advisors will rotate out a day a week and with their pattern, but we are following with that pattern too. So I'm going to stop here. We're going to open it up for questions and discussions. And that's what we wanted to do with our hot topics, get everybody talking. We are curious what everybody else is doing here in Michigan. So I'm closed, but I'm guessing some libraries, I know that Kalamazoo Valley never closed, same with Kellogg. So we're just, depends where your location is, and that's going to do it. So I'm going to stop here.
All right. Thank you, everyone. So now, like Sandy said, we want to open it up for discussion, for questions. I do see one question in the chat from Jennifer's presentation, and that is from Beth Lieberman, wanting to hear more about our library student services collaboration and giving some examples.
Yes, thanks, Beth. So this was pretty much born from chats, not dueling chats, but these chats happening at the same time. So at first, I think the librarians would immediately pass questions on that were definitely not library related. And actually, Jen Fierro can speak on this if you want to, Jen, in a minute, because Jen took a lot of these and created these partnerships. But this was a lot of sharing information that didn't happen before. And for instance, we would get questions about the bookstore, a lot of questions about the bookstore, which still just amazes me that there's such a confusion about this. But so there is a particular student services person on chat usually, and I think a lot of the times Jen and this person, just collaborate all the time on these things in tandem. And student services has said recently that they might do, that's my dog, might create an FAQ, and we also refer people, as do the student services personnel, to our FAQ, the library FAQ. That's kind of been tweaked to include a lot of the questions that come in. It's just a complete team effort at this point. And because of this, I think we've kind of gained some knowledge about each other's roles, and that wasn't there before. And now student services, I think, is probably marketing our services a lot more because they understand what we do. Hey, the library can help you with that, and probably vice versa. At this point, I believe the collaboration is purely born through chat, but it's definitely something that's created a foundation that I believe will expand. I have every confidence that it will. Jen, you have anything to add to that?
Not much. I mean, the chats that we were talking about, I'm good friends with someone who's kind of the live chat lead for Jackson College, and we would be on Teams together and like just open chatting, and I'd be like, hey, do you know the answer for, who do they call for tech support on this book, or this person is asking about office hours or needs to meet with a navigator. Do you know navigators are our advisors, and do you know which one that they would need to meet with? And so she would be able to help me triage that really quickly. And then same thing if we had library questions that would come through there, because we found that when we try to pass them off to the other service, because we're using LibAnswers and they're using something else, we lose the student. So the whole idea is to just meet the student where they're at and try and help them right away. And it's been really helpful. So, yeah.
Thanks, Jen. Sorry to pull you in. I know you're moderator, but
I can do anything. It's cool.
you can.
Well, Darlene has a question for Fran. If LCC has any guidelines for requesting Canopy titles, I found at OCC that some students are trying to use this resource as a free Netflix, which of course we do not have the budget to support.
Absolutely true. For the PDA model, we have it already. We've worked with with Canopy Collections person to try to only have more academic titles, but we do have some popular current in there as well. And I can see every month when someone is just kind of browsing around. And what scared me the other day is a professor said, I have over 200 titles in my Canopy playlist. There was like, oh oh no. And it's not that we don't want people to use it, but as it becomes more popular, it becomes a problem, as you know. And so the mediated form, you can tweak the publishers. So if I find that somebody is really kind of, I can't tell who's using it, I don't do that, but if I can see that they're a publisher that's more current is being used more often, I can mediate those. I can move it from PDA to mediated, which seems to help, but then I have to involve Canopy. So it's become, and then I was just thinking the other day that I need to talk more with, I think Canopy, when I attended an MCLS meeting where it looks like they're trying to find a subscription model
Okay.
for their product, which I think makes sense for libraries because we just can't keep having this unknown budget all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically what we've been doing. And when I do get a list from folks about the, titles that they want, I go in and I have to request and make sure that it's for their classes. So that's basically the answer. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
That's pretty much what we're dealing with. Yes.
Great. Yeah.
Canopy was heavily used at our end too when COVID first hit, and it was like sucking up the budget. And I've spoken to many people at different places, and they had to put a lid on it because it would eat your entire budget without even
Yeah,
you realizing it.
absolutely. And one of the things I'm thinking of, if it continues, it's kind of, I'm waiting to see where it goes actually.
Yeah.
But if it continues to climb, I'm thinking that we might have to ask them if they could put a cap on. So like, if we get to X amount of money per month, we need to stop the purchase and then we'll see where it goes from there. Maybe we can mediate out the rest until they come up with another model.
Tracy asks, I would like to know what anyone is doing to self-advocate for work-life balance when we return to campus. And anybody can feel free to chime in on chat. We do want this to be more discussion-based too. So, just feel free to chime in if you have any awesome ideas or questions about anything that we covered, anything that we didn't cover.
Wow, that's a great question. I'm thinking about that.
Yeah, that was my comment to our union, was that going forward, I hope that they had a survey and an open-ended question at the end was anything. And I said, I would hope that there was a move towards a work-life balance, even beyond, after COVID, when things return that way. So I'm guessing that will be a discussion going on, and I do hope it is discussed and not, I do know that our campus does not want to go back and like nothing ever happened. Like that is the comment being said. Do not expect that you just show back up whenever that date might be, and we just revert to what we were. So my thinking was that maybe that is part of that discussion when everyone really is back, and that might not even be till sometime into that winter semester. But I love that question. I know Rachel has spoken about it at MSU, and I hope we keep that alive. Yeah, that's my comment.
I can answer to that a little bit. So we have been told at our college to very much embrace hybrid and that we're going to gently ramp up to going back. And then very suddenly out of the blue, a little over a week ago, we were told that we are going to be full-time on campus 100% on July 6th. And we were all completely shocked. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to the fact that some parents at our college had already, lost daycare slots, those kinds of things that we have to do way ahead of time. A lot of upset people, particularly women. And we're still struggling, but I am a part of a group on our campus called, it's called Women for JC. It's a women's kind of group that we created, and we meet and kind of commiserate and support each other. And we actually spoke to a member of our leadership team yesterday, offering to be here, you know, if there's any message that they want to send about work-life balance, we'd be happy to spread the word and just kind of there to represent women on campus. I don't know if anything's going to come of it, if they will take advantage of that, but I feel that, and this is something we're really in the middle of struggling with right now. So I don't know if it's going to work, but that is something we're trying to do through this little group that we have on campus.
Well, I'd like to address that also. As I said in my presentation, we're never going back to life BC. You know, it's a new world now. You just might as well accept it. And for years, by a former vice chancellor who's no longer with the college, we were told as librarians that we had to do everything on campus face to face. So that's really limited how much we could cover through VR. And at the same time, you know, because campus closed at 9 o'clock, so you had to, some campuses even closed at 8 o'clock. Only 2 campuses are open on Friday and Saturday. So that really limited, if we had to be on campus, how much we could actually accomplish. And so now that the pandemic has come and we're doing everything from home because we have no choice, we've not only done it very well, but we're doing more of it because we can. I don't have a problem covering VR until 9 or 10 o'clock because I can. I don't have to drive home or whatever have you. So I think they're starting to see that there's, you know, this is actually a good thing, and it's a good thing for the students, and we don't mind doing it. So I think there's going to be less resistance to that. You have to be on campus to do everything. And certainly I think that that's why we were so easily given the option to do 50% of our load online. By the college, because the college realizes that, you know, if you're going to keep people, this is what you have to do to keep them. And also, you know, it's like the old saying, you know, how you going to keep Junior on the farm when he's seen Paris? You know, well, we've seen Paris and we like Paris. So we want to keep working in Paris. So I think going forward, it's going to have to be a part of the new normal.
And I just wanted to say that I think at LCC, we have the exact same situation where we're moving things more to online. We recognize that we're going to have, once people use, if you can get your questions answered from home at your computer, are you going to really come in, you know, to the library when you have such a good experience? And also in terms of e-resources, you know, I think we've always had the user like who is accessing the library from remotely. And we just didn't think so much about them. You know, we're like more concerned about who's coming into our library, how many people are coming in. Well, we've got a great group of people out there who are using our services remotely. And I think we've talked a lot about how we're going to start to boost up our appeal to them. And we want to keep them also. We want those online users to remain steady customers of the library. We've also gone through a renovation recently. So we are opening up on July 7th for appointment-based only services with only a handful of people coming back, working very socially distant. So it's going to be an interesting fall for LCC.
But I thought of something else that I wanted to add to relevant to Tracy's question. The downside to this is that you're always perceived to be available. And that's something that I've kind of struggled with. I technically, like today, I do VR from 7 to 9. My schedule really starts at noon, but you know, God help me if I wait to log in at noon, because I've got 30 emails, you know, and all these threads that are competing against each other. I've even gotten a text from an immediate coworker when somebody wanted a Zoom session and she wasn't available to do it. So it's like, you know, whoa, horsey, you know, I still have a life, you know, laundry still has to be done and things still have to be cooked and watered and fed. So that's the thing that I'm struggling with right now, are boundaries. And I have an area of the house that I work in, and I will not work any other area in that house because I want the perception that I'm actually cutting off a light and I'm leaving work. And that helps a little bit, but I think we'll all be struggling a little bit with those boundaries and how to set them and keep them as we move forward. And Rachel's nodding her head.
I wanted to add in that my biggest concern is, so on our end, that we were looked at very successful, that we can do our job remotely, that students can access and get a hold of us and help out, is what happens to our space? Do we still really need it? And so I'm really concerned that, and I know it's happened across, it's going on across the country, is that the library is then no longer a space. There are librarians, we do everything virtually, we're still working remotely. Maybe I have an office, but that is my biggest concern, is the fact of our space. Would it be turned into something else? So that was, yeah, another flip thing.
We have about 4 minutes left. If anybody has anything else that they'd like to talk about or really quick address before we wrap up. If you are interested in talking more about any of these topics, the community college interest group will be having a breakout room. I almost said table, but a virtual table during the interest group time tomorrow evening/afternoon. So feel free to drop into that if you'd like to chat some more with all of us and some others. We have an FYI from Heather. There were some issues getting logged in. So, okay. Push the agenda times out half an hour. Oh. Okay, so we kind of got a little bit started quicker than other people. It sounds like I didn't have access to my email during this time, so I didn't see that. So I apologize to anybody who missed any content. So the next set of sessions are going to be starting at 4:45. So we have extra time to chat, I guess, if we want to.
I'd like to hear from some other people, some attendees, what's going on at your library.
Yeah, even if you would share, if your library, what is the plan for fall? Are you open, appointment only, completely open? Kind of like us, still on pause? I'm curious too. You can put it in the chat.
Do you have any adjuncts working? Our adjuncts have not worked since March 2020.
We only have adjuncts at Jackson College.
Oh, ours are working. Wow, Darlene. Yeah. And wow at Jackson. Yeah.
So when we reopen in July, there is myself, I'm part-time. There's Jen Adams, who's our director and is full-time, and we have one full-time library associate. That is who we have to keep our building open.
Wow.
So we're definitely advocating for some staffing, and because there will be no work-life balance if we don't get some more staff.
Yeah, our adjuncts have been working as well. And we're hiring another adjunct, so that might help us come mid-summer, but it is kind of tight because our full-time librarians, a couple of them take the summers off. So we're running kind of short-staffed right when potentially we'll have more appointments in person.
I wanted to share something if I could. Hi. Thank you, everyone. This was really insightful. I work at Delta, and we are open. We have been open since the fall semester. So we are open by appointment, which basically means that we keep the library door locked, and we ask students to either make an appointment beforehand, or of course we take walk-ins. So most of the students just kind of come to the door, and we have a little doorbell that they ring, and we have lots of signage. and we get them set up. But one of the challenges that we've had is we are open by appointment with the locked door per our college requirements. And that's something that we keep going back and forth about, is because we still have students now after being open for, you know, how many months, maybe 7 months, that don't realize that we're open. And a lot of the librarians at Delta are concerned, you know, that a locked door is outside of our mission as a library. So of course, it's heartbreaking to hear that students are coming to the locked door and not seeing the signs and walking away, because we're there for them and we want them there, obviously. So that's been kind of a challenge. I don't know if anybody has any thoughts about that or suggestions.
Krista, what is the justification for the locked door if students are allowed to show up?
Yeah. I mean, this is exactly the questions that we've asked. And I think it's because it's really important to the college that all of the departments are operating on an appointment basis.
Okay.
So in order to be in adherence to that requirement, we need to lock the door. But I think it's really because, you know, any student can sit down in the hallway and crack open their book, and we would love for that student to come into the library. So I think part of it is this miscommunication, this misunderstanding of the administration on what a library is, what we do. And so that's been a really big challenge for us. And it just it feels like it kind of falls on deaf ears.
It's probably going to take a student to complain, maybe, to get someone to listen to that concern, because I could easily see someone coming to the library and tugging on that door, and, you know, they don't read signs, and going away. And maybe if they went away angry enough and they dropped a note to a vice chancellor or somebody, they might actually listen. But that must be incredibly frustrating. And I understand the concern about they're probably concerned with distancing or too many people in the library or whatever, which probably isn't really a concern. I mean, per se, you know, it's not like I'm in Royal Oak, downtown Royal Oak, and we just get everybody and their mother. And yeah, it's a big problem. But I don't think that would be a problem for you.
No, it's not. I mean, on a good day, we might have 8 students throughout the day. So it's not an issue, the social distancing. You know, when we started this, I think that was part of the reasoning to set up this whole system, is because we didn't know how, you know, if the students were going to be marching through the doors. And but now we know that that's not the case. So I would really, I mean, I think everybody in the library, yeah, obviously would like to see that change. But yeah, it just kind of feels like it's slow going.
Krista, it's interesting because we have the opposite problem of you. We don't have doors or walls because our library is within a bigger building, and there's no way to lock it unless the entire building is locked. We also have our very popular cafe in our building. So since we're understaffed, we're deciding that we are not going to have our pre-pandemic hours until I have more staff. So we're going to close at 5 until I get some help. However, students can just walk right through the library and do whatever they want, possibly go into our offices. So that's the opposite problem. You know, I just think it's interesting how we have such different situations. And we wanted to offer appointment-based, you know, an appointment-based opening, but we kind of can't, because once the doors are open, everybody can come in. So just interesting.
Amy asks in chat, as many campuses start to reopen and return to face-to-face classes, especially for fall, are library instruction programs returning to face-to-face instruction also? And I think we'll have to wrap up in about 5 minutes. I double booked myself with the 4 o'clock. So thinking that we were running 3 to 3:45 and, life happens. So I know for us with face-to-face, I don't know what's going to happen because we don't know what classes are going to be face-to-face yet. Jackson College is looking at about 50% face-to-face classes. And I don't know that they have really talked about any mechanism for like guest instructors or what that looks like. So I think that's kind of going to be, and we only do our instruction basically based on instructor request. We don't really have any like standing agreements or anything like that. So that'll be really interesting to see how that all pans out.
We have a really small instruction room that fits about 25 people. So we do have some concerns about the ability to use that room for instruction. We've talked about possibly doing like 12 and 12, splitting a class up. Our class sizes tend to be like 30 to 35 people. So maybe splitting the class up or going to the classroom space if the classroom space is larger. So that's something we're still talking about with our director of environmental safety, as far as, and he's kind of waiting on to see what the distancing guidelines are going to be, if it's 3 feet or 6 feet, and how many people we can have in a room at one time. So we do plan to do some kind of face-to-face instruction, but we're just not sure how it's going to look at this point.
Well, I appreciate everybody stopping in today to listen to our session and to chat and share with each other and hopefully learn from each other. I appreciate everybody for sharing as well what's going on at their libraries in the chat and via Zoom. And I'm hoping that and I do apologize for the technical difficulties that some experienced and that and I missed that memo completely, and I apologize. That was me dropping the ball as the moderator and having too many things going on too many screens. But again, if you are interested in chatting more with your community college colleagues, or even if you're not at a community college and want to chat with us anyway, feel free to just pop into our IG breakout room tomorrow. And we will see hopefully many of you then. So just remember, if you could please fill out that session evaluation form that you will find in your attendee portal. And we will see everyone later on during the conference. So have a great rest of your conference, everybody, and have a great evening. Thank you.